All right. Are you a competing team in Dynasty?
Yeah.
Are you trying to win that championship this year?
Yeah.
Maybe next year? We got some wide receiver trade targets for you. By the way, shout out to Cold Case 1856.
Yeah.
He pretty much asked for a video for contending teams, wide receiver and running back targets. We're doing wide receivers today, but running backs are coming soon.
Yep.
So we're going to give you 2 players each. I'll go first. Mike Williams. Mikey Mike Will, who had an absolute breakout year last year. It finally happened. It finally all came together. Over 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns, finished as the wide receiver 12. I mean, those first 10 weeks, maybe, 8-10 weeks, he was a wide receiver 2 in all of fantasy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So he had one hell of a year, finally broke out. Finally, the talent, the body, the quarterback play, it all came together. And I think he's a really good trade target for a win now team. And I'll tell you why. Number one is the Justin Herbert connection. All right. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, they offer 2 different things to Justin Herbert.
Right.
Okay. Keenan Allen brings stability, consistency, and a reliable target over the middle of the field. All right. Whereas Mike Williams absolutely unlocks deep ball Justin Herbert. He unlocks Justin Herbert's upside on a weekly basis. And that's because Mike Williams dominates in 2 specific areas. Number 1 is the red zone. Just throw the ball up to him. I mean, how many attempts did we see Mike Williams get in the red zone this year? It felt like there was multiple times where they just went back to him again.
Yeah, they did.
Like, here's another one-on-one attempt. And it makes sense because look at his body size. The other area that he dominates in is the deep ball. Mike Williams is a fantastic deep ball wide receiver. And if you look at Mike Williams' breakout in 2021, and we can kind of see a correlation in Justin Herbert evolving as a quarterback.
Yeah.
All right. Justin Herbert's deep ball completion percentage in 2020, before the Mike Williams breakout, was 21st in the NFL. All right. In 2021, he went to being the 5th most accurate deep ball passer. Okay. So you can see a correlation. Mike Williams, fantastic deep ball option in 2021, meant Justin Herbert improved as a deep ball passer. So the Mike Williams breakout absolutely helped Justin Herbert evolve.
Right.
So he's a crucial part to this team. You can see that with the contract that they offered him. 3 more years in LA. 3 more years connected to Justin Herbert. And if you're a win now team, that should probably be your window. I mean, if you're not looking to compete in the next 3 years, and probably maybe have to rebuild after that, then you're maybe not doing the win now window right. You need to be all in to really go after that. So he'll be 31 as a free agent. Unrealistic that he gets a big contract like this again, but he absolutely fits that timeline. And the last thing is his price. I mean, he's very affordable. Early 2nd round pick should get the job done for you. An early 2nd round pick. So go out, trade for Mike Williams. He can absolutely fill that last flex spot for you if you're a win now team. Might be inconsistent at times, but he can be the reason that you win multiple weeks.
Yeah. Love Mikey Mike. We'll see. I can't wait to see what he does this year. My first win now wide receiver is Terry McLaurin.
Come on. Okay.
And scary Terry. And I was surprised myself. I'm
surprised.
I'm always surprised. Off Terry. I don't know about Terry. And it might be difficult to get him just purely because everyone's saying Carson Wentz is the best quarterback Terry has played with. This is probably the best quarterback this team has ever had, which is probably true. But I'm not sure when which video is going to release first, but we did a avoid series of why you should avoid Jahan Dotson. And for me, it kind of speaks to why you should get Terry. Okay. Because Carson Wentz never produced 2 top 5 35 wide receivers. It only happened once in his career. And that was his 2017 year where he did break out and he was QB5. That was the Carson Wentz year when he was like, damn, who's this guy? Right. And it was. It's like, damn. Okay.
No, I remember.
It really came out. Okay. And then we saw last year Carson Wentz with Michael Pittman. And then if we really argue, or we can have an argument or a disagreement, but I believe that Terry is a more talented wide receiver than Michael Pittman. This is probably the most talented wide receiver Carson Wentz has ever played with.
Yeah, I would agree there.
If Michael Pittman and the highest wide receiver that Carson Wentz has ever produced in a fantasy aspect was Michael Pittman in wide receiver 17, surely, finally, Terry can finish as a top 15 wide receiver because he still hasn't. 2019, wide receiver 29, 2020, wide receiver 20, 2020 this past year, and wide receiver 25. We have to believe that it's a lock to be a top 15 wide receiver. I hope so. Yeah. I really hope so, because we've been waiting for this every single year. It's Terry's year. Fitzpatrick came in. Oh, wow, Taylor Heineke. We saw a nice little sparkle of hope, Yeah. Carson Wentz, if my man can stay healthy, if my man cannot break both of his ankles, both of his hands, whatever he needs to not break to stay on the field, Terry McLaurin could be a lock-in for top 15 wide receiver. And the price, it may be a little bit difficult because he's still worth a first-round pick. I say 112, 111. Anything higher, I think it could be an overpay just based on the age, depending on how you view these players, because I think 1.8 is too valuable. That's like a Sky Moore. I think that's too valuable in my opinion. Maybe depending on how you feel. So for me, if you can get Terry right now, and another thing is when you're trying to buy Terry, say, hey, his contract, we don't know if he's going to get re-signed.
Right.
These guys want to get rid of these players that their contracts are in question. And I think Terry, in my opinion, is one of those guys. I know Zach maybe has a different opinion because you're a Washington fan, but I don't know if Terry's actually going to be re-signed this next year. So for me, I think this is a perfect opportunity to get Terry McLaurin.
I mean, reports are flying out. The reports that are coming out is that Washington wasn't a big spender in free agency because they wanted to prioritize re-signing Terry. So I would imagine that he re-signs, but look, anything's possible. We've seen, A.J. Brown is an Eagle, so anything is possible. By the way, in 2021, he was a wide receiver 25. Keep in mind, the reason we were all so high on Terry is because of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Mm-hmm. He did not play with Ryan Fitzpatrick except for like one quarter.
Yeah.
So it's hard to really point towards Terry. I'm all aboard this. I think it's a great take. I will say though, it's going to cost more than the 112. I think we have. I do think it's going to cost more. I think if you're a win now team, 108 is like Christian Watson. Do you want to wait and see if Watson's going to pay off, or a win now team send the 108?
True. I agree.
I think 108 is probably what it's going to take, but I don't know. I mean, you could get him cheaper.
You could get him cheaper. I just don't. I think if it's Sky Moore, I'm not anything. If Sky Moore's still available, I want Sky Moore. Right. Anything after, okay. I'm willing to dabble. I'm willing to have a conversation.
Okay, I see that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my next win now wide receiver, and bear with me for a second, okay? Because I'm going to tell you why this makes sense. And this is probably the cheapest win now trade target anyone has ever put on YouTube. Anyone. Okay, as far as what it will cost to get this player. So the risk is virtually zero. And the reward might be zero, but again, the risk is zero, okay? And that is Devontae Parker. Bear with me for a second.
Okay.
In 2021, finished as a wide receiver 71. Was not healthy throughout this season, unfortunately. The emergence of Jalen Waddle. But let's look at where he is now. New England went out and traded for him, and then they did draft Tyquan, but Tyquan doesn't feel like he's going to replace Devontae Parker in this depth chart. It feels like he's supposed to be a complementary piece to Devontae Parker. And if you actually look at pretty much any depth chart on the internet, which we don't know if the teams are releasing these, but if you look at any depth chart on the internet, Devontae Parker is the wide receiver 1 for everyone's depth chart.
Sheesh.
Okay. So it is pretty commonly known that he is considered the X wide receiver because of his size, because of the history of what he's done as a player. He could be the X wide receiver on this team here in New England. All right. The competition for targets: Jacoby, Tyquan Thornton, Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these are good players. I believe in Tyquan. I think he can definitely succeed. He's the one that worries me the most.
Right.
But everyone else, these are just run-of-the-mill players. If Devontae can play to his ceiling, then you're not prioritizing those guys over Devontae Parker. And the next thing is, we have never seen Mac Jones. Well, he's only played 1 year, but we haven't seen him with an X wide receiver yet. And I know that you're going to say, well, what about N'Keal Harry? What about N'Keal Harry? Okay.
Gosh.
This is Parker can maybe be what N'Keal Harry could have never been for Mac Jones. Okay. And yeah, it's questionable as far as where is Devontae Parker in his career, but he's only 2 years removed from a top 12 finish. All right. In 2019, he was the wide receiver 11. That is not that long ago. And funnily enough, it's the only year of his career where he was healthy for every single game.
Gosh.
So I think there's a correlation there maybe.
Mm-hmm.
He has dealt with some injuries. But again, the price isn't too high. But in 2019, he had over 1,200 yards through the air and 9 touchdowns. Again, the only season where he was fully healthy.
Yeah.
So if he can stay healthy, I think a top 30 finish is not out of the question.
Okay.
If he can stay healthy is a big question mark there. But, when it comes down to his price, it's costing like an early 4th round pick, guys. Like an early 4th round pick for Devontae Parker. That is not something that I feel like I have to hold on to if I'm a win now team. If you can find a 4th round wide receiver with more upside this year than Devontae Parker, let me know in rookie drafts in the 4th round. So for me, Devontae Parker, it's a new scene. Mac Jones, maybe this is the wide receiver that they need to unlock that next step for him. He is not young, but he still has at least 2 to 3 years left where he can be a fantasy relevant wide receiver. And it's going to cost you virtually nothing for a guy who might, keyword might, be able to be put into your flex position. So,
okay. It's interesting.
I want to offer, some very affordable options.
No, it's definitely interesting. I thought the same thing because my win now wide receiver, it may not be obvious as well as Allen Lazard. It may be obvious for some people as Allen Lazard.
Right.
Okay. Obviously Devontae Adams is gone this past year, or is gone now in this off season, and now there's 142 vacant targets that that Devontae Adams was demanding every single year. Obviously, they drafted Christian Watson. What's funny about that? What was the problem with this wide receiver too when Devontae Adams was on the team? Everyone dropped the ball. Allen Lazard was one of those guys. Allen Lazard, MVS were all dropping the ball. And Zach, you always rave this about Christian Watson. He had the highest drop percentage in this class.
Yeah, he does.
It's interesting. I don't want Christian Watson to fail, but if my man can't catch a ball, then there's no doubt that Aaron Rodgers is looking somewhere else. And the somewhere else is back to
Aaron Rodgers doesn't care if he's a rookie.
No, he don't care. And Aaron Rodgers is looking right back to the guy he already has chemistry with. He knows for a couple years, and that's Allen Lazard. Okay, this past year he did miss 3 games. He finished with 8 touchdowns, 60 targets. We can see obviously a significant jump with Devontae Adams no longer there. Okay, I sound like a broken record. 142 targets. That are open for grabs for Allen Lazard. Obviously, is going to be divvied up in however way you want to put it.
Yeah.
But we saw a nice little run in the last couple of weeks, week 14 to 18. He was the wide receiver 8.
Wow, really?
Yeah, averaged 16 and a half fantasy points per game in that stretch. Obviously, probably week 18, Aaron Rodgers didn't play, Devontae Adams didn't play, but in that stretch, he was the wide receiver 8.
That's impressive.
And that is really, really, you're right. That is impressive for a guy maybe that they already knew that Devontae Adams was probably going to go. Who knows? Maybe they didn't. Maybe it was just a little work in progress. But I think this is a perfect opportunity for you to get a guy like Allen Lazard. I think a lot of people are low on him purely because they drafted Christian Watson. And it's not that much. You probably send an early third, mid third for Allen Lazard. I don't want to spend any more than that. I don't want to give any second. Don't give a second for Allen Lazard. It has to be a 3rd round pick. And I think that what's a 3rd round pick right now? It's nothing.
Yeah, totally.
It feels like a good price. Why not take? And mind you, he's technically the wide receiver 1 on this team. So let's see what happens with Allen Lazard.
I think we would agree that wide receiver 1 is really up for grabs. But Lazard could be the guy to fill it.
No doubt.
That is pretty impressive. Weeks 14 to 18, the wide receiver 8. And with Lazard, I mean, Aaron Rodgers has gone through seasons with wide receivers who are mediocre at best, and he has made them very fantasy relevant. So it's not out of the question that someone here could finish top 15.
It has to be. Who
probably
knows?
We probably couldn't tell you who it's going to be, but why not take a shot on one of those guys who is in that in that window? Because they're not going to stop throwing the ball. They have Aaron Rodgers. Their offense will not change that much.
Exactly. I agree.
Except for Devontae Adams is gone. Anyway, these are our win now wide receiver trade targets. Let us know. Is there, we have brought quite a few, so we wanted to switch it up a little bit today with some more options for you guys. But let us know. Do you like these? Do you dislike them? Comment down below.
Yo, what's good?
What
Thanks
up?
for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos.
Watch
Now,
it.
You can also subscribe
Right now.
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/Fantasyland Fam.